It's time for a reality check.
We're here to deconstruct health and fitness trends and provide tangible advice so you can become 1% better with each choice starting today. All right. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to this episode of Reality Check with Jess and Jill. So today's topic is a little different than what we've been talking about in these last few episodes. And this is more of just kind of like our background as trainers and coaches in the space. And of course, it relates so much to fitness journeys and just setting goals and doing things in life in general. And I think it'll be super valuable, but this is geared more towards those who maybe are trainers or are aspiring trainers. I know that we have so many clients that go through our program and end up loving just everything about it so much that they're like, wait, I want to help people like this too. So I think it's valuable to understand how long our timelines have been within the space and really just like what our commitment to what we do has been to get to this point and to be able to help help people in the capacity that we do. So I think Jess's story is so cool. And if you guys don't know, Jess and I have known each other since we were grade school. And when I started to grow this business, it's funny, I had all of these mentors and coaches, and I remember telling my husband, I'm like, I have to hire somebody. I don't know how to pick someone. Like, what do I hire somebody I know that I don't know? Is it random? And I immediately was like, Jess is a person I have to talk to. And my husband's like, well, what is she going to say? I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm like, hopefully yes. And he's like, what if she doesn't? And I was like, then I have to keep trying. Like, I don't know. So it's just really cool to be literally the two of us sitting here recording a podcast together and to know like everything that has led up to this point. So her story of becoming a trainer is super cool. So I'm going to let her just share all of the things with you guys.
All right. And my story, I guess, is kind of long in terms of how I got here career-wise. But we share this to share that if you want to be successful in this business, being a trainer, being a nutrition coach, owning a coaching business like Jill does, it's just like anything else. It's just like your fitness results. There aren't quick fixes. You have to build a foundation of skills before you're actually going to reap the rewards and see the success from it. You have to put in reps. You have to get experience. You have to actually get people lasting results. You can't just go and try to get quick fixes and look good on the internet, or else that facade will crumble. Okay. So that is why we're sharing this today. So we'll go in, I guess I'll kind of tell my story. And then at the end, I can say like, okay, these are the key takeaways. Like if you are new in this, or if you're like, I think this is really what I want to do for a living, like here are some things that you can start to apply right now to continue to get that education, like from day one. So my personal journey, my educational background did set me up a little bit in terms of just classes in college. Like I did a pre-med pathway because I either wanted to be a clinical psychologist or a neurologist. I wanted to do something with mental health and brain health. I was interested in fitness stuff at the time. That's when I started tracking macros for the first time and learned about, started following bodybuilding.com, Jamie Eason's bodybuilding plan and lifting for the first time. So my college had a really good physical therapy program. So we actually had a lot of exercise science classes that were cool that I took for fun. So I took like exercise science, I took exercise psychology, I took all the anatomy, physiology, biology classes. I took a nutrition class while I was in college. But honestly, at the time, my ego is still too big for me. But like at the time, I thought like, oh, personal trainers are just personal trainers. Like anybody can do that. It's how hard is it to write a workout for somebody? Like that's not really helping people is what I thought. I thought, oh, I can do better things than that. So in the back of my mind, so I actually got certified to be a trainer right out of college, thinking like, oh, I'll do this as my hobby when I go into grad school. And it's funny that it ended up coming full circle because again, I never thought that this was going to be my career. And now that I'm in this place, I am able to use all of the skills that I wanted to use to be able to actually help people, help them with physical health, help them with mental health, help them so that they don't need medications and stuff. Like it's totally in the same line of work, but in a totally different way outside of the healthcare system. So that's what I went to school for. Long story short, I ended up taking a completely different job. So me and my husband now moved to St. John, the U.S. Virgin Islands together right after college. I was going to take like a break year because I graduated early, and I was going to use that year to have fun and do an experience while like right before I went back for grad school. While I was there, I got an offer for a job in sales that I took it because I was like, it seems like a cool company, a cool learning experience. Anytime somebody gives me an opportunity, I start to like, well, I guess I could make that work. And I start to envision that whole new life. And it wasn't a pathway I really thought I would go, but I ended up taking this job, and it brought us to Baltimore. And I was in sales for, I think it was like 4.5 years, like just under 5 years with this company.
That long.
So it was from 2013 when we moved back from St. John until 2017 when we moved back the second time. So like the beginning of 2013, end of 2017. So I'm in this sales job. I am personally at not my finest health wise. Like I wasn't super unhealthy, but I didn't prioritize my normal routines. Mental health, it definitely took a toll on me being in a desk job where I wasn't seeing sunshine every day, and like just the grind of that was unhealthy psychologically for me. So I actually went and I got certified again in, I think it was like 2015 or 2016. I got certified again as a trainer because I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this on the side as a hobby to help people because I'll get it like personal fulfillment out of helping people. That's what I always wanted to do. This career is really good. I don't know if I'm ready to give up the career, but maybe I can just start to do this as a hobby. Meanwhile, the people we used to work for in St. John actually sought out my husband because they wanted to hire him and bring us back there. So we ended up, I actually went to my boss. I was like, okay, listen, I gotta like cut ties. I need to quit this job. I haven't been happy here for a while, and I've been trying to find a place within the company I could move because I don't like what I do, but like, this is the perfect opportunity. Brett got this job. We're going to move back to St. John. My boss was like, well, what about this? And he gave me another opportunity that kind of like kept roping me back in, where I was actually able to work remote for the same company in a different division, but still doing sales. So we moved to St. John. We sell our house in Baltimore. We shipped Brett's truck over there on a ferry, all the things. So we totally relocated. We planned on being there for probably 10 years. We figured we'd have kids there. And then someday when the kids are school age, we would move back. This was in 2017. So we do this big overhaul. While I'm there, I get an LLC in the Virgin Islands because I'm like, I'm going to start a fitness business. And when I get really good at it, maybe I can leave this other job. And while we're there, Brett was there for about 6 months while I was packing up, moving our stuff, all the things. I got there and I was only there for 1 month. And that's when Hurricane Irma and Maria hit. So 2 Category 5.
I didn't know you were only there for a month when this happened.
Yeah. So we were there a year the first time. And then the second time, Brett was only there for 6 months. I was literally there for a month. I got there, I think, in like the end of June or July. And then I was there September 6th was the hurricanes. So the plans changed again, right? And it was that in itself is a whole story. Like we didn't plan on being away from the island. Brett's grandfather passed away a couple of days before the hurricanes hit, and we flew back for his funeral. And then we got stuck here and we couldn't fly back for 6 weeks. Our dog and our cat were there. We had friends who had to like hike to our place to get our animals, and like it was wild. So now we're in this place where it's like, what am I going to do with my life? We don't have a mortgage. Brett now lost his job opportunity that we moved everything for because there's no tourism now in St. John for the foreseeable future. And they kind of kept him on a string like, well, someday we're going to open back up. And it's like, okay, but we can't wait forever. What are we going to do?
Yeah, I got to do something.
So we moved in with my parents for 6 months in Middletown, Delaware. We came back home like, okay, what are we doing? Are we living here? Are we going to go back? We were under contract for a house in St. John. That was like a 2-unit thing. We were going to rent one side and live in the other side. And that, thank God, ended up falling through because of the hurricane, because it had a little bit of damage, not even that much, but we were out of contract for it.
Yeah.
So I thought, this is my opportunity. Like, as all these trickle down effects, like I am somebody who tends to look forward at like, okay, well, here's my situation. What am I going to do with it? Not like, woe is me. Oh no, my plans changed. So this is the first time in years. This is the first time since college I haven't had rent or a mortgage. So I decided this is the time. So I quit my job. I went to a local gym here, the Village Gym, and I talked to the owner. My sister-in-law had trained with the owner there for a while. Like she was a client of his, and every now and then she would invite me to go with him because I asked, because I was like, oh, I've never actually been to a trainer and I'm a certified trainer. Like, let me go and learn from this guy. So I went to him and I said, hey, Joe, like, I want to be a trainer. And he's like, listen, I have a daughter. She's like about to go into college. If this was her, I would tell her that's so dumb. Don't quit this job. You have a 401k. You have all these benefits. Like, you really want to come into a gym, work stupid hours to make like no money with no benefits. And I was like, yes, I know that this is what I want to do. And like, I'm so passionate about it. I'm going to make this a career, even if it starts sucking. So that's what I did. And I had that level of passion because I knew I loved it so much. And I was genuinely in it for the fulfillment of helping people. And I figured, you know what, financially, I'm going to make it work. We will figure it out. But financial gains were not my number one driver. I was confident that I can build the skills to someday make it work financially. So I trained any and all sessions I possibly could. I got up at 4 a.m. every single day. I trained 5 a.m. sessions Monday through Thursday. I trained 6 a.m. sessions on Friday. I trained 8 a.m. sessions on Saturdays every single week for a couple years. Basically, the other trainers that were there would put stipulations on like, well, I'm available these hours or whatever, which makes sense if you have kids and a family or whatever. But like for somebody who is just getting started, who doesn't have those obligations, I was like, I don't care. I'll train any and all sessions that you give me. So they gave me almost all of their small group sessions at the time. And then like I got my first in-person client. She's at like one-on-one client, I should say. She actually eventually became a Fueled client with us, Katrina. So I trained her at 8 p.m. She got off of her job at 7 p.m. So I was at the gym, weird hours. I was making like $16 or $17 an hour. And it's not good money and it's not good hours. I think my first 3 years, I yielded like $25,000 a year or less, which again, in some places that might not be a livable income, but I was like, all right, I'm going to make this work and I'm going to grow it. So eventually I got to the place where I had a meeting with the owners and I said, listen, if I start to bring in my own clients, what am I incentivized with? Like, what kind of system can we come up with? And they said, well, nobody does that. Nobody actually goes and gets their own clients. And I said, okay, well, what happens if somebody wants to? Because I would like to build my own brand. And if I bring people into your gym, how does that benefit me? Right. And we came up with a setup where, hey, if you bring in your own people, you can charge them whatever you want now, and then you pay us rent for that hour. So now I'm making a bigger difference on each client that I bring in until eventually I was at a place where I was able to, okay, now there's only so many hours in the day. Now I'm going to start doing 2-on-1 sessions or 3-on-1 sessions with these people that I'm bringing in. And most of that, I am no technology expert, I'll tell you that. But like, it wasn't like I was doing some major branding on social media or anything like that. It was like I was sharing information as I learned it. And I was trying to be really, really good with the people I was coaching and training so that they would then tell other people about me. And I became pretty successful locally because we have like the local Facebook page or whatever. And people would ask for personal trainer recommendations and they would recommend me. And during these times, like I think back and I would laugh at some of the things that I had people do because I'm like, oh my gosh, I was such a bad trainer then. And I'm sure 10 years from now, I'll look back and at some stuff I do now and think that, right? Like, but every single time that like maybe a client stopped working with me or like if that happened, I'm not thinking like, well, the market's kind of bad. That's why. Immediately I'm like, well, shoot, what could I have done better? Like having that mindset of like, how am I going to get better to provide the best value possible for this person made me so much better for my next client. Right. So like even I'm thinking of one particular woman, she had like an elbow issue and it was like, okay, I don't know anything about this, but I promise, like for the next 2 weeks, I'm researching corrective exercises for tennis elbow. And it's like those types of things along the way versus just dismissing it and saying, okay, we'll just skip that for now until you feel better.
Right.
Like that's what made me a better and better trainer. And now that I'm online, I can recall lots of different experiences with lots of different types of people to say, like, ooh, most likely if you're feeling it this way, did you think about trying it this way or that way? And like actually using the cues because I knew what it felt like to work with people in real life. So, okay, I'm going on a little rant here. Are you good with me still going, or do you have anything?
Yeah, no, it's lovely. That's great.
Okay, cool. So yeah, a lot of like reevaluating what am I doing, and then educating myself along the way as much as freaking possible. So this is not just like, yes, formal education. I got my nutrition certification. I got a behavioral change certification. But like I was listening to podcasts every single day. I was reading books about strength programming. It wasn't like, oh, well, I've gotten fit once, so I'm just going to use this methodology. I'm like, well, I got to learn how to be really good at this. And the things I don't know, like still, like I'm not well versed with like athletic and performance training. Cool. Let me go read books about that because I don't really know about that right now today. Like that's not one of my expertise areas, right? So trying to like fill in those gaps where it would best serve my clients and in the areas that I want to learn about. Like if you're somebody who knows you want to coach athletes someday, don't just train with what you know. Go seek out mentors. Go follow people. There's so much information on the internet. Go learn from the best people who are way smarter than you in all of your free time, because that's going to just close that learning gap a little bit faster. So lots and lots of learning. And then I got so then COVID happened and my pregnancy happened at the same time, pretty much. So like I got pregnant. COVID shut down the gyms in March. I had the baby in June. At the beginning of COVID, when they started to shut down the gyms, I think a lot of trainers, I saw a lot of trainers that I knew in person complaining like, oh, well, like, guess there's nothing we can do. And I'm like, what do you mean there's nothing we can do? What about the internet? So like, I know nothing about like design or like, I didn't know how to use Canva or anything at the time. I hired a designer and I like wrote a whole program in Microsoft Word. And I hired her and I'm like, okay, this is going to cost me something, but like, hopefully at least I can work. And she helped me to make it pretty, but I ended up selling online programs. And then all of my one-on-one clients in person, I actually only lost one client. It was actually a couple I trained in their house. Every single one-on-one client I had in the gym, I continued to train over FaceTime or Zoom during COVID and through my pregnancy. And then had my first baby in June, had my second baby that was of 2020, had my second daughter in 2022. And like in between that time, I did in-person training again once the gyms opened back up. And again, now I'm at a point where I could scale my business a little bit because I had enough clients, but I had a little baby at home and I was pregnant again. So I was choosing wisely how I wanted to spend my time. So then in 2022, that's when me and Jill connected. So it was actually while I was very pregnant with Logan. And then 6 weeks after having her, I started coaching online with Jill. And I guess we could go into that too, but like ever since starting with you, and that's one thing I really appreciate and respect about you as a boss, is that you are constantly, so I was the first assistant coach that Jill hired. We now have 6 other coaches also. So there's 7 of us total. Ever since I started, a month, 2 months in, she is looking for opportunities in her employees and saying, okay, how can I grow this person with me? What is this person's strengths and how can we utilize their strengths? So anytime she said like, okay, you want a stretch project, why don't you go try to do this? Can you put this together for me? Whatever. I'm like, yes, cool, opportunity. Again, now I'm going to get to learn. I'm going to become better. I'm not thinking, well, what am I going to get paid for that project? Right? Like you giving me opportunity is allowing me to grow my asset in my Jessie stock. Like I'm becoming a more valuable me because of these opportunities versus I think a lot of times people get into business thinking like, oh, well, if you're giving me another project, I deserve a raise. And it's like, wait, you haven't shown you're valuable yet at that new thing. Right. So trying to really take that mentality even into this online space, because this is a very new thing for me. I guess I kind of skipped a little part of this. During that time that the gyms shut down, I had gotten certified as a nutrition coach. I took clients on just like we do here, where we coach with them weekly, not just like we do here. My systems were weak. I did not have a good structure. But I had people, and I was doing nutrition coaching for $20 a week. And I would do a half-hour Zoom with them every single week because I was like, okay, that is a suit. If anybody has nutrition coaching, like if you're only paying $80 a month and you have unlimited access to your coach and all of that, like it's unreasonably cheap. Okay. But I was doing that because I'm like, well, I don't know what I'm doing yet. Like I have experience as a trainer, but I don't have experience coaching yet. So let me get good at it. Let me learn and fail and not be great and learn where my gaps are so that I can get better and better. And I did that and again, I'm not saying like, oh, everybody needs to suffer financially to become successful. I'm just saying like, take every opportunity you can to learn. And then once you get good, raise your rates because now you're more valuable. So I did that before coming on with you. And then once I'm on with you, I'm like, oh, wow, she's paying me even more per month. And I don't now have to find my own clients. I don't have to do the marketing. I don't have to do all the other stuff on the back end that I don't enjoy doing. I get to just be a really good coach. So I thought that as a great, like I saw it as a great opportunity, not as oh, well, what's in it for me, you know?
Wait, but here's the other part of that is during this time that I was waiting for Jess to start, I was like, oh my God, she's going to back out. She's going to change her mind. What do I do? And I was going to wait. She was gung ho on this is a cool opportunity and I really want to do this, but it's just going to be part-time because
that's true.
I really love training in person and I'm not willing to give that up. And I was like, fine, I'll take whatever I can get from you. Let's figure it out later.
So it did go both ways. I forgot about that. Yeah. I basically told Jill, I was like, I mean, I'll take like 2 to 5 clients, but like, I love training in person. I am really good at physically helping people with form and corrective exercise. And like, I get so much fulfillment out of it. There was no way that I thought I was going to be wanting to be online full time. Like I get bored sitting still. I can't do it. After 1 or 1.5 months, it was to the point where I told her, I was like, nope, either I dialed back all of my in-person clients because I had gone on maternity leave. So I had a nice little break, or the ones who were ready to come back, I brought them back in this model because it was such a cool blend of both where I got to help them with their form and I got to write them programming and we're doing video calls. But I'm able to help them with their entire life because we're working on sleep and stress management and food. It's not just them seeing me for an hour 3 times a week and then going back to really crappy habits. So that's kind of what brought me to here. And now I'm at a place where not only am I working for somebody else who is paying me what I would consider a livable salary, and I have much more flexibility. I'm home with my kids 2 days a week. So like I have this opportunity to now make this a career, not just a part-time job on full-time hours. And I'm home with my kids more. So I'm at this place now because of all of those other inputs of like, let me learn, let me grow as much as possible. So yeah, I guess like I'm sharing this to share, like, reflect on yourself, learn why isn't something working, become better and own the fact that like, okay, I really sucked in 2017 with these people that I used to train in their houses. I didn't enjoy doing it, but I did it and I learned from it. Right. Like, all of those things like will get you to a place where someday it can be a successful thing. And like now my clients, and again, I work for somebody else who gets me clients. Like Jill does the marketing. She is Miss TikTok, right? Like I don't have to think about that at all, but I have actual long-term client success stories where people just send me referrals. They're sending me their friends and their family members because they actually trust me, not because I'm somebody who gets quick results. So actually creating like going in it to really help people and being invested in your clients' long-term success, not just in short-term weight loss, will get you the good business outcomes long-term. But it's not an overnight thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. And it's funny that we're actually recording this today when we are, because I don't know if you've seen it yet, but I started to see it a few times this week of people talking about the butterfly effect. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so
It's probably TikTok or a reel or something.
yeah, it totally is.
No,
But
of
the
course I don't. I
butterfly,
haven't seen it.
you'll see it in like 6
I don't
months.
have TikTok.
The butterfly effect is literally like thinking about where you are now today and what life looks like. And it's like, what are the things that led to that? And it's like, this never would have happened if this never happened, and this wouldn't have happened. And it's funny that we're having this conversation now because it really is like such a full circle thing. And it's funny that you mentioned how you felt about training initially, because I was pretty similar in that, like, okay, I don't know if this is going to be like a full-time gig. This like giant online coaching space didn't exist in 2015 when I started doing this. I was literally sending Google Docs to people and like making horrendous like PDF workout sheets. Like I didn't know what I was doing either, but I knew like same thing. I'm like, I love this thing. If I can love this thing and help people and monetize it, then cool, like win-win for everybody. But it's funny. I feel like for you, you were pulled back so many times to like doing this, and it was like, no, I don't know, like whatever. So it's just funny to see now.
It really is. Yeah. And like, there's a couple like defining moments of conversations with people in my life that like I get the chills thinking about it. And I'm like spiritual and have faith in God. And I feel like everything happens how it's supposed to happen. So when the hurricanes hit, I don't panic. I don't know, like in the deepest of my hearts, I'm like, well, this must have happened for a reason. I really feel that. So let's figure out what's happening next. But I'm kind of like piecing together as I go, okay, how do all these puzzle pieces fit? And so I was volunteering for Little Pink Houses of Hope. They do they do retreats for women with breast cancer and their families. When we moved to St. John, I had helped with them in North Carolina when I went to school there, and I became really good friends with the founder of that organization. And we were doing a retreat in St. John when I lived there, and we were standing on the beach, and I had been working for this other company. And she's like, what are you doing? Like, you're not happy. You don't like it. Like, this is your life. And I'm like, yeah, but I can't make money being a personal trainer. And she's like, why can't you? Like, you can make it whatever you want to make it. And that's like part of this message that we want to send you guys too, is like, it doesn't have to just be personal training or fitness, but like, if you're really, really passionate about something and the enjoyment and the passion is one thing. If you can then build up your skill set, then when opportunities present themselves, you are ready to meet those opportunities, and it all comes together. And it's like, wow, I remember Janine having that conversation with me on the beach in St. John and being like, yeah, you can. And now 7 years later, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like really doing it and doing it well. And I love my life. Like, I absolutely love every second of what I'm doing. So yeah, I think it's like a collision of prepare yourself, have skills, but also like have faith and envision what you want your life to be. Like me and Jill joke about this, but like I listened to a podcast. A girl who actually ended up becoming a client of ours was talking about like manifestation and some woo-woo stuff that I don't buy into personally on this podcast. But I was like, okay, psychologically, it makes sense. If you're writing down like, I am happy, I am confident, I am wealthy and helping people, like whatever, there's a psychological aspect that your actions start to follow.
Yeah.
For probably like 2 or 3 months before me and Jill connected about this job, I was literally journaling every single morning. Like, how am I going to make this job a career? Because now I'm 3 years in, barely making any money, and I love it, but I'm not making any money. How am I going to do this thing? And again, I'm trying to write programs. I'm trying to do this other stuff to figure it out. But every single day I would journal, like, I am open to opportunity where I can help people and I can become successful. Like, I don't have to be poor and doing a passion. Like, maybe I could make this passion a career. And I wrote those affirmations in my journal every single day for a couple months. I prayed about it for a couple months. And then it was like, then by the time me and Jill have this conversation of, hey, maybe we could collaborate. If that had happened 6 months ago, maybe I would have been mentally shut down to the idea. But I'm looking for opportunities because I had been having these conversations in my head. Like, nope, I'm going to make this work. And I'm like also
car theory. When you like go test drive a car and it's the car you want, and all of a sudden you see that car everywhere, and you're like, that's weird. Everyone else has this car now.
Yeah. So like my affirmations, my praying about it, whatever. It's like, okay, it's not some magical thing. And again, I have faith that like, okay, stuff happens how it's supposed to. But But I think that along with the preparedness of, okay, if I wasn't quite ready, maybe you wouldn't have hired me had I not been honing in on my skills and my messaging and my client results all along the way. Right. So yeah, like everybody, it's a cheesy saying, but like luck is when opportunity meets preparation. Like that, I believe in its fullest. So like keep preparing yourself because you don't know what opportunities might present down the road.
Yeah. And I'm super, super obsessed with personal development in just like any area of life because sure, I love a good, like fun, just like trash ball book to like escape my brain. But I really do like, I was reading a book the other night and actually it ties into what you just said, but I was reading it and my husband's like, is that a fun book or is that like a workbook? And I was like, well, it's kind of both because like, this is fun. But it's called The Pivot Year by, I think her name's Brianna West. And it's so good. It's actually not this like storybook. It's actually these like little mini prompts and you're supposed to read one a day. It's why it's called The Pivot Year. Naturally me starting that on June, whatever day I started it, I read like 30. And in my brain, I was like, okay, I'm going to read this in chunks and I'm going to just keep rereading these pages until they're like ingrained in my brain. But one of the pages actually talked about how people say like, oh, I want this thing. I want to, monetize this job. I want this result. I want to do this thing. And people are like, it never happens and this doesn't work and whatever, but they find, they feel resistance or they get mad when something comes up. And it's like, hold on though, you're putting out into the universe that you want this thing to happen in this way. And shutting this down might be the living small version. And you're like, I want to live big. And you're like, but you're hanging on to this, like you're not letting it go and you're getting pissed off when something shuts it down. It's like, that's not the way to do it. This is the way. So it's funny that we're talking about it in that manner. And that I literally read that page yesterday. So obviously it all ties in, but I always joke that I tell Jess, I'm like, hey, I want this thing. Can you manifest it for me? Because it's like, you're obviously really good at this. So these are the things I want. If you want to like throw me a bone in your journal entry, no, but it's funny. And, obviously like me reaching out to you was like, we hadn't talked on a regular basis through those years of like her in St. John and her in Baltimore and doing all those things. But she made her job and her presence and her expertise known enough that me just like not being somebody looking for a trainer, not even being interested, I just saw it all the time. And she was constantly
and we were not local. Like we weren't living in the same place anymore.
Yeah.
And I was meanwhile following Jill's journey just because she was really ripped when I was really ripped back in the day when we both used to do it in an unhealthy way. And then I started following her journey, seeing like, oh wow, she's coaching people healthy now, not just bodybuilding type dysfunctional, right? Like she's becoming healthier herself. And then I started seeing your messaging and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's exactly how I coach my people. So like we started
like, how easy would this collaboration be? Because we say all the same shit. We're on the same page. This is like, that's why
totally on the same page. Yeah. And then she's saying like, hey, I have this business and I have too many clients. I need another me. Do you want to coach? And I'm like, I don't know. I love online. But like, if I said again, and I didn't say no to the opportunity, I said, well, what if I only take a couple clients and see how it goes? So I'm not shutting it down. If I had shut it down, I could have missed out on all this great stuff. But instead I said like, okay, what's the opportunity we can work out? And I think that's another thing going back to my in-person training experience. When I went to Joe and Christy, the owners of the gym at the time, and said like, okay, but what if I bring in my own clients? I don't know. That's never been done before. Okay, well, could we come up with an agreement, right? Like think outside of the box when you're trying to create opportunity for yourself, because like everybody's thinking of their own next step. They're not thinking of your next step. So we can't put it on other people to create success for us, right? Like we need to go out and get the skills or build the opportunity versus waiting around for somebody to tap us on the shoulder. So yeah, saying yes to that for 5 clients at first turned into, wow, I love this. And I can't believe I didn't do it sooner. And it's a combination. Like what I do now is a combination of all the things I wanted to do professionally. I get to help people. I get to help with mental health. I get to help with physical health, but also like my growth mindset. Like I like to always grow and develop as a person. You challenged me in that way. Our team challenges each other in that way in a really cool way. Like you help reimburse us for continued education. All those things that I loved about my big people career that I had before. Like I liked the company and the benefits in that way because they were always pushing you to become a better you. I didn't like what I actually did. And now it's like, how cool, I get both and I get to like do it from home and spend more time with my kids. Like it's perfect.
Yeah. What's funny too, that I treat, like when we were like having that conversation, I treated you the same way I treat clients who are like skeptical about our process. Like you're like, I don't know, I'll try it out. And I'm like,
She's
whatever.
selling me. She's
I'm like,
selling me.
I'm like, give me 6 weeks. You're going to be running from that gym. It'll be fine. It's good. But I was like, didn't pressure her. I was like, that's fine. We'll start slow, whatever. I do the same thing with clients. And they're like, well, how's this going to work for me? How's this going to be different? And they're like, I'm going to try it, but I'm scared. I'm nervous, whatever. I'm like, that's fine. Because I know in a couple of weeks, I'm going to like win you over, and not in like a schemy way. Just like this is the thing.
I'm going to meet you where you are. And then we'll build on that. It's nothing to be scared of, right? Like, so you're building skills and you're layering it in over time until you are becoming that new person that you wanted to be.
Yeah. And, with my like, work history background and everything, I worked as a personal trainer, and for me, it was a hobby for a long time. Like it was bodybuilding. It was just training clients on the side. I never had the mindset though. Like I went to school, I got my degree. Like that's the way that I was raised. And that's what I was taught that you do. Right. Like, so I was like, okay, I can't get this degree and pay all this money in student loans to do this career and then just quit and go do something else. I'm like, okay, so I'll just do this on the side for extra money, whatever. So I did for so many years. I mean, my lunch breaks at my full-time job, I was like writing programs or messaging with people. I wasn't doing like check-ins like I do now because that just wasn't really a thing. But I was constantly like, I was in network marketing, but like I still was like, okay, I'm going to grow this business and work with people in this way. Like I just knew that somehow I was supposed to work with people in this capacity. I worked in cardiology. So like, I'm so grateful for that background too, because I think it's so beneficial for so many like other areas of this. More so just like understanding what clients are going through on the quote other side of medicine and health in general. But I literally ended up in medical device sales, which I think it's funny that we both had sales jobs prior to like doing this, because to me, I'm sure
it's also,
you don't even know that it's like, it's not selling. It's the skill of like talking to people and knowing what people need. And like, how do I show this to them? Right. Like that.
how do I solve somebody's problems? It's like that, or even the advocating for yourself part of like, okay, and this has nothing to do with me and my clients, but me advocating for myself in that career or whatever, like, okay, well, give me more opportunity and I'll prove myself. It's that competitive mentality versus give me mentality. It's like, okay, I got to earn it because my commission was posted on a wall and everybody knew what I brought in.
Yeah. Like we had virtual team meetings, and if you were at the bottom of the ranks, everyone knew you were at the bottom of the ranks. And I was like, okay, I can't do that. But that job was really cool because I'm not, my perception of sales was like car salesman, sleazy. Like I was like, I'm not that person. Like I can't do this. But it was really cool that the job that I had in medical device sales, because it wasn't like an optional solution for the patients that we were doing. It was like, this is the only way. Like, so selling was so easy because it was an easy thing to be passionate about, because it was such a helpful thing for people, for one. And for two, it made sense for the physicians doing that for their patients. So it was just like a breeze, right? Like it was a really cool way to like quote sell, which is the same thing. I put sell in air quotes, and it's how I feel today. It's like, I have this incredible solution and like, yes, I need to be compensated for my time, but like, I know, and it's why I have all these consultation calls and 8 billion conversations with every person before they start, because I want to make sure that this is the right thing for them, right? And that it is an alignment and it's a good fit for everybody and all of that. So that was like my background. However, that sales job had me traveling 80% of my time. And I was like, okay, this is a cool job. And it's funny. It was the job I always wanted. Like for the company I wanted to work for, if you asked me 8 years prior what I wanted to do with my life, that was it. And it was funny. I was doing it and I was like, wait, like, this is the thing I like. Was like, when I do this, I made it in life. And I was like, why am I doing it? And I still feel like there's like a thing not right, like something's still missing. And I was literally driving to Indianapolis, and it was like a 6-hour drive or something. And I was like, oh my God, why have I not done this before? Like I'm present. I'm active on social media. People ask me all the time, like, do you train? Do you train? Can you help me? And I was like, no, like, I don't have time for this anymore. And I was like, wait, hold on a second. And I literally pulled over on the highway and I called my husband. I was like, hey, I think I'm going to do this thing. Like, I listened to this podcast about starting your business. I think I can do it. And I explained it to him and he was like, okay, like, do whatever you want to do. Like, obviously he's like, cool, shoot for the stars, whatever. And I literally went on my story and I still have these stories on my phone. I recorded like 4 or 5 stories about, hey, I'm starting my personal training business. This is what it's going to look like, whatever. And I put it out there and I like got bombarded and I was like, oh my God, okay, like maybe this is the sign. So it's so funny. I literally pulled over on the highway and I was like, nobody's going to answer, whatever. I'll just like let my phone go until I get to the hotel. And the whole night at the hotel, I was like, oh my God, people are inquiring. Now I have to do something, which is very much my personality. I don't put all the ducks in a row. I need the pressure. So I'm like, I'm going to put it into the universe and then the universe is going to be like, get your shit together or move on. Like you're beat. And
that's why you're such a successful business owner. Like I'm the opposite where I'm like, oh no, I need to have my skills honed before I pull the trigger and do the thing. And then it's like, I end up getting in my own way. Literally the other night I asked Jill, so there's a local gym that wants to partner with us and like basically refer us nutrition clients and we refer them for our clients to go work out there. And they asked if we could drop off some business cards or whatever, a whole sheet with things. Jill, like within the hour is typing up business cards, blah, blah, blah. Hey, what do you think about this? And like within a couple minutes, I'm like, okay, well, we could edit this or this. And she says, okay, what's your address? And I'm like, oh, wait, we forgot to put this on it. She's like, oh, already sent, already mailed. We'll just do the next batch next time. Like the mindset, fail fast, is like how Jill runs a very successful business, because it's not, okay, fail and move on and ignore it. It's like, let's just do something. And it doesn't have to be the perfect prototype. It's let's get going and we'll hone it and we'll refine it as we go. And then we'll learn for the next batch. Right. Like, and that's how you operate. And that's how you've grown to a 7-coach business that's very successful.
Yeah. And it is. I'm like, and it's not because I'm like being fraudulent. I know and I trust myself that I will figure it out. And I know that I want to be the best at everything I do. And that's how I am. Like, I'm like, okay, I said I was going to be the best trainer they ever had. Now I got to go do it. So then I was like listening to podcasts. I was reading books every night. I was like on my laptop until 1 a.m. on the darkest setting. So I didn't wake my husband up, squinting at my screen, trying to like, write programs and Google, what Trainer Eyes was at the time. Like, I didn't know. So I immediately was like, okay, there's a gap here. And this is like important lesson, obviously why we coach. I was like, there's a gap here and I don't know all of the logistics. I know how to coach. I know how to talk to these people. I know what these people need, but I don't know the most efficient way to deliver this product or this service. Literally Googled business coaches and it took me to someone's Instagram. I don't know how she did it. Good job on her, because that's where I started. But I hired my first business coach, paid an absolutely insane amount of money. My husband thought I was nuts. And I was like, I promise I'm going to make this back. And I did it. And I moved through her program so fast. And my business was so nuts. I was like, this isn't enough. I need more help. So then I found another one and I was like, okay, this is double the investment. And my husband's like, dude, you're getting carried away. And I was like, you got to trust me. Like, I promise. And I did it. And same thing. I was like, made my money back before the end of the program. And I was like, okay, I got to move on to the next thing. And he's like, why do you need these mentors? And I was like, the reason that I'm moving at this pace is because I'm hiring somebody to tell me this is what you don't want to do and this is what you need to do. And I was like, okay. And I just did it.
And the system that you set up because you learned that stuff, like that was my gap back when I was like, well, let me practice this nutrition coaching thing. Like I had an Excel spreadsheet that I made myself with all my clients' notes or whatever. And I would send them Word documents or emails back and forth. Like I started working for Jill, and within the first 2 days, my dad owns a business. Within the first couple of days, I'm calling my dad like, dude, you got to get a better onboarding process. You got to do this, because she had it all ready to go. Okay, here's your training modules. Here is the system that we use for this. Here's where we keep all of our client data. And it was just like an efficient machine where now her employees can just be really freaking great coaches and not have to worry about it.
Yeah. And it's funny. I just updated this course for new coaches coming on for just the minor tweaks in our system. So I'm like, okay. And it's funny. I had, unfortunately, I didn't go with this program, but I had a coach that was like, oh, you'll figure that stuff out later. And I was like, no, I don't like that. I can lay the foundation now. And they're like, it takes too much time. I'm like, it doesn't take me too much time. I can do it. You just got to tell me. And it grew way quicker than I thought it would, which obviously is amazing. I think it was just like COVID chaos, whatever, like online things just were popping off and it was good timing. But I was still making these drives to Indiana. I was flying to and from California and Texas and Wisconsin and the crazy places to do these cases for my full-time job. I was sending voice memos to clients. I was doing check-ins in the airport with, somebody chirping in my ear that I needed to board my flight. I was doing them at 6 a.m. in my scrubs before procedures. There are clients that still exist in the business. They can attest to this, that I was sending check-ins at 5 and 6 a.m. in my scrubs. There's video proof of this.
Also, she had a child this entire time, by the way. I just want to point that out because I also think some people are like, well, I don't know. It just takes too much time. And it's like, look at how you're spending your time then. Because again, full-time job and a family. This is not like somebody who's in college and just spreading their wings for the first time with a fluffy back cushion to lean on. It's like you wanted something, so you made it happen for yourself.
Yeah. Now, obviously, I don't recommend living the way that I lived like that for long term, but I was basically working 2 full-time jobs. I was obviously had a family and it was a lot. Like I was not sleeping, but anything that I wanted to do was always, here's some like habit development for you. I was like, all right, I got to do this thing, but I can't give up this thing. I was in the gym in hotel rooms, still worked out 3 to 4 days a week through all of this, but my laptop and my phone would be propped up literally with modules from my business coaching programs. Cause I was like, I don't know when else I'm going to listen to this. So obviously on the plane, I did that, or while I was working out, I didn't fucking listen to music for like 2 years straight. I listened to podcasts and I listened to modules over and over and over. And if there's something I needed to remember, I would pause it. I would voice memo myself into my notes, make sure you do this thing later. And then I would unpause and go back to my set. Like my life was chaos, but like, I was like, this is the thing I have to do. And full send, I got to do it now. I got to see this through because I don't quit anything. So, it was just wild, but I still to this day have multiple mentors for different reasons, people that I've worked with for a really long time that I trust. And don't get me wrong, I spent my money in the wrong places, just like everyone has like fucked up and spent money on a program that didn't work or backfired or was restrictive or a shitty coach that never answered you. Like, been there. I get it. I understand that, but I was like, I am not going to let that one thing change how I show up in the areas of my life that I want to succeed and move forward and whatever. So I was like, okay, I failed. I fucked up, made a bad decision. I gotta clean it up. I gotta keep going. So, that was kind of like my process. And now I've been pursuing some education, some certification, something since that day that I pulled over my car. I was like, I gotta be better. So just like Jess, I was like, for me, I was like the opposite. Jess is like, work for free. And I'm like, I'll pay. Like, somebody make this happen faster for me. Like, I was just like, and I had a full-time job. So I could.
No, but in either way, neither of us were going and saying like, okay, I'm ready to do this job. Hire me. It's like, no. We know we need to build up our skills. And then we're going to get really great at what we're doing.
Yeah. So I did. And I was just constantly paying for certifications and programs and access to information. And I still pay, I don't even know how many subscriptions for like, research articles every week and every month go into my inbox and I send them to the coaches and I'm like, hey, this is new data to support this thing. Like I'm constantly doing that. But it helps because I really love it and enjoy that information. So it's very easy for me to consume. And I also don't like not being good at something. So if I fuck something up, I'm like, that's never going to happen.
It doesn't feel good. It does not feel good. And both of us, I think, have that same like genetic hiccup.
Yeah. So, when people ask like what we do or, and I'm very grateful. There are coaches all the time that ask like, are you hiring? How do we work for you? And I always want people to take away this information of like how long it took for Jess to get to this point, for me to get to this point, for anybody to get to that point of working online and successfully and balancing this, because a lot of people do it. Obviously, are a lot of remote jobs and a lot of people are online coaches these days, but it definitely isn't easy. And they say that 3 years is like the cutoff. Like that's like statistically people who like own online businesses or small businesses in general, if they make it past 3 years, like they're going to be okay. But most don't. Like most close well before that 3-year mark. So it's super cool to be where we're at now, just because all of that. So obviously all of that being said, I think sometimes people not necessarily in a negative way, but people assume a lot of things about how we got where we are, that it was easy or whatever. And like, I've been doing this since my first certification CPT through NASM was in 2015, the spring of 2015, when I was still bodybuilding and doing a bunch of dumb, crazy shit on the other side. But
my first was in 2012, and then I started full time in the gym in 2017. So, and now we're in 2024 right now.
Yeah. So it's been over 10 years, and almost for her and almost 10 years for me. Like, that's so long. And it doesn't mean anything needs to take that long to come to fruition. I mean, I pulled my car over on a highway and started a business in like 60 days. Right. But like, there was a lot of things that led up to that point foundationally. And same thing, I was pulled back kind of in different ways than you were. And I never saw it being my full-time thing until like that moment. I was like, holy cow, like, what am I doing?
And we still have moments, like even in this business, we still have moments where we're like, oh, that one person, man, I wish I could go back and really help them. Like, because there's going to be growing pains. There's going to be growing pains. Nothing's going to be perfect. But like, put helping people first. Put learning and building the skills first and getting really good at what you're doing first, because then that other stuff and the success will follow it.
And let me just do this because you said that, because I have to, but that also applies to health, fitness, everything. Learn the skills and implement those things regularly, and the benefits will come from that. And that's why I think this is so important and applies to literally anything that you want to do in life. Like Jess said, whether it's to be a trainer or some other dream job that you're putting off or whatever. And it doesn't mean you have to go run and start your LLC and be an entrepreneur either. It could be a totally different path. It could be a hobby that you're monetizing and just do for fun because you love it. I doubt that I will monetize sourdough bread. I'm just going to do that for free because I don't think anyone will ever buy it, but it's fun. And I watch videos and I read books and I'm obsessed with it. And you should see how many bags of flour I've gone through, but I'm like, I want to be good. And I told my husband, I'm like, I really want to quit, but I'm not going to, because I might not sell this bread, but it's going to be fucking delicious one day. It's just like how my personality, and I know not everybody's the same, but it's just a good lesson. I think that, like, honestly, if you just see things through and it doesn't mean I don't fear failure. I'm terrified of it all the time. Jess can attest to that. I'm constantly like, what if this doesn't work, or what should I do here? And I think it's important to, one, have a good support system and surround yourself with people who have that similar mindset. And I think I've talked about this before, but it's why I go to I paid money to go to conferences and sit in rooms with these people, because I'm like, I just want to know what they're doing. Like, I just got to figure this out. And that's why I think it's so valuable that if there's a skill that you want to learn, or a thing you want to do, or somewhere you want to go, whatever, spend time with that person, however you have to, whether it's for free, or whether you have to pay for it, or whether you have to go somewhere.
Whether it's a podcast. Whether you're listening to other people just talk to learn from their experiences, put in reps in that thing you want to get good at.
Yeah. So I know that was like totally different vibe on this podcast. Are you close to your cycle, by the way?
I think I ovulated last week. I think I'm probably in the week before, but I'm fully unhinged. I did not sleep last night at all. We could do a whole unhinged episode. I did have one of the V8 energies yesterday, which has 80 milligrams of caffeine, and I had it at about 1 p.m., which I'm hypersensitive to caffeine, guys. For anybody who knows, I am hypersensitive to caffeine. Literally up all night, didn't sleep at all. And yeah, we could record a whole unhinged episode right after this.
Well, it's funny. I asked you this because I am also, and I was called out earlier this week by the coaches for being in my unhinged week. And Jess and I we're usually synced up. We got a little bit off for a second, but we have different versions of our unhingedness, which is why I think this is funny that this was the topic and the way that it came about, because we have unhinged of irritable, short fuse, right? Anger, but we're emotional.
And we have sometimes manic, I'm going to get shit done. Sometimes it's very productive and good, but then also it could be emotional. Luckily, I didn't cry today. Sometimes what will happen?
I thought for sure you were gonna.
No, I'm feeling good. It's not the week before my period. I will just cry at the drop of a hat, guys. And it's like a thing that only started after I had children, but it's like the week before my period. I could see I could hear a story about somebody I do not know adopting an orphan, and I'll start crying and be like, oh my gosh, it's wonderful. So anyway, anytime I tell Jill how grateful I am, like that we got reconnected and that this all worked out, like I'll just start crying.
Okay.
And she's like trying to pat me on the back from far away, like, don't get too emotional. And I'm like, I'm not an emotional person either. I don't know what's happening.
Well, I think it's funny that you used adopting an orphan as the thing that makes you cry, because I am confident if it's on the right day before your cycle, like Jess could walk outside and like see a butterfly and be like, oh my gosh, that butterfly was so beautiful. Like, this was a sign for today, and something would like it could be the smallest thing.
Yeah.
But it's funny when you were telling the story, and I was like, oh, where are we in the month? Because this could go multiple
It could go haywire. I didn't cry. I don't feel like I'm going to. Despite the lack of sleep, we're chilling. But I'm still so very grateful that things work out how God wants them to, is how I feel.
Yeah. So like in a couple days, everyone just
then I'll cry.
Don't tell Jess sad stories or happy stories. She'll cry with you too. Really either way.
Usually it's happy. Usually it's happy tears. Actually, it's usually not really sad. It's usually like, I'm so grateful.
Yes, it is. You're just very full of love. You're just in your own love bubble for a couple of days, and then everything levels off, and we just go back to normal day-to-day shit. And it's really cool to have so many different. You guys get a lot of versions of us,
and a lot of personalities.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that is all. Maybe this was like a semi-unhinged episode. Who knows? I guess we'll get feedback on it. But I hope that was helpful for anyone that's listening, whether you do want to be a trainer, you're a client on a fitness journey, you're a random person on a fitness journey, whatever it is. I think these are just valuable lessons that we wanted to share, just some little nuggets that we were like, wait, this would be a really cool episode to kind of share this background. So I think that is all we have for today's episode, and we'll see you guys at the next one.
Bye.